Okay, let's go.
Late breaking news. As we were going on the air, we just got this information, got sent over to us yesterday or early this morning. We found out that Kentucky and Gonzaga had ended their 3-year contract to play each other. They played one time. It was forgettable for us.
Yeah, they kind of beat the crap out of us.
Down in Nashville. And so they ended it. And then all of a sudden today, late today, we get this information that college basketball's next huge regular season event is in the works. And if it materializes as planned, it will give the sport another massive must-see attraction. The proposal is called the Diamond Cup. It's an 8-team pool play event that would debut in the 27-28 men's basketball season, sources told CBS Sports. If it comes together as designed, the Diamond Cup will be blue blood laden, and in addition to the Players Era tournament, bolster the mainstream appeal of college basketball during the opening month. The 8 schools involved.
Before you go,
Yep.
Go back to the image of the 8 schools and let people see just for a second and see who's not there.
Yeah,
because you're getting ready to name who's not there.
Yeah,
and that just popped out to me immediately.
Yeah,
on who's not there. So I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance to look at it.
Yeah, the 8 schools involved in deep discussions. None have signed on to this, but they are in late discussions at this point. Arizona, Connecticut, Gonzaga, Kansas, Kentucky, Indiana, Michigan, and North Carolina. Holy moly. 7 of those schools have been in talks with Diamond Cup stakeholders since last summer. Duke bowed out earlier this spring due to its 3-game commitment with Amazon Prime Video, which starts later this year, and which allowed for them to remove them. And essentially, it sounds like they added Indiana.
Yeah, it's all NIL money here.
So this is not going to be a one-off like the Champions Classic, where we will go beat Tyron Stokes in Kansas this year in the United Center. This is going to be pool play. So essentially, there will be 2 pools. You'll play 3 games. It sounds like you'll play 3 games in your pool, and then the 2 pool winners will go on to play each other for a championship.
It'll be as big as an NCAA Final Four.
It'll be the biggest first month attraction that you'll see. It'll probably be 2 weeks long, and it'll probably be. I can imagine that it's going to be at some of the larger arenas in the conference. So you'll have your March Madness, but you'll also have this at the beginning of the season as well.
And half of those teams will be in the top 10 every year.
Yeah, I mean,
this will be something you want to plan your weekend around. What's it?
Honestly, as a Kentucky, Indiana, and North Carolina fan, I want to say to these other teams, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this, because Kentucky, Indiana, and North Carolina haven't been good in the last couple of years. But we still got
the eyeballs in the fan base.
The eyeballs in the fan base and all that money that comes in, right? So that's all that really matters. So to be able to join these other blue blood teams, as they call it, will be huge. And again, we were talking about this 3-game contract with Duke and Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
may have come back to bite them right in the butt.
Have you heard how much money Duke's getting paid for that? I haven't.
I have not.
But it's all. This is probably one. It's to fight the Amazon Prime deal with Duke.
Sure.
It's to counteract that, which you'll watch this versus you'll watch what Duke does.
Yeah.
And then,
well, it's interesting because
the money that'll raise will go to NIL budgets to these schools, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because Connecticut, Gonzaga, and Michigan are the other teams that Duke is playing in that in that deal. So they're not being.
So that tells you Duke's getting probably 75% of the TV money.
Oh,
Amazon money.
Yeah, easy. Yeah. Which probably makes these teams really want to be a part of this as well.
And I bet ESPN's rolling over in the grave because they love Duke so much.
Well,
I don't like Duke. You know that. Everybody knows that.
You're not allowed to like Duke.
See my hat.
Yeah,
I don't like Duke.
Yeah. Let's move over to more Kentucky basketball because an offseason move that many people thought was dead suddenly appears to be very much alive. According to reporting from KSR's Jack Pilgrim and Jacob Polachek, three-time NBA Sixth Man of the Year Jamal Crawford is still actively considering joining Mark Pope's staff at Kentucky, and Crawford himself reportedly confirmed the discussions are ongoing, according to On3. It's important because a lot of people inside Big Blue Nation assumed this pursuit had kind of ended with the Tyron Stokes deal when he left for Kansas, but apparently not so fast. Here's the interesting part. The issue doesn't appear to be whether Crawford wants to coach. The issue appears to be timing and family. KSR reported that Crawford is serious about getting into coaching, but he currently has multiple things pulling at him. He has a television responsibilities with the NBA coverage. He coaches AAU basketball with some of the biggest names in the country. He coaches at Rainier Beach High School, and his son, JJ Crawford, is currently viewed as the number one player in the 2029 class as he just finished his freshman year and is entering major developmental years. Now, we mentioned the NBA Western Conference Finals angle. There is a logical connection here. Crawford currently has NBA broadcasting responsibilities, and the BBN chatter has increasingly centered around whether an announcement, if one comes at all, may wait until these obligations are completed.
Right.
We don't know if that will actually be the thing. But the bigger issue of this is that Mark Pope already brought in Mo Williams. If Kentucky were to add Crawford too, suddenly you're talking about a staff with major NBA credibility and a lot of relationships with elite players who are 16 to 18 years old right now.
And plus, who they can bring in from the
Exactly.
NBA to talk to UK
Yep.
players. I mean, if we get him, gosh almighty, I mean, that will help Pope so much by having those 2 guys on his staff.
And on the screen right now, the reason that I put this up here is that Jamal Crawford just yesterday afternoon reposted Jack Pilgrim's post about Jamal Crawford's son JJ, uh,
Yeah.
and this has got people all of a sudden talking again that the Jamal Crawford thing may be happening. I will say that the Western Conference Finals, which is where his announcing responsibilities would end for the season, it
And I'm
appears.
watching. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
watching.
That series will probably go 7 games. So again, we may be in a 2-week waiting pattern to find out anything, just like we are. We're about a week out from finding out what's
Yeah.
going to happen.
And he's not I've been watching specifically to see if he mentions anything or his co-host mentioned anything about UK or Kentucky or just say the word Kentucky.
Anything, yeah, anything.
And I've not seen or heard anything yet. I can't even believe they're not teasing him about it on air.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't been around Chuck or Shaq.
And then, this kid, you say he's a freshman in high school right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Rajon Rondo is getting ready to be a freshman.
yeah. Pierre Rondo
So
will be a freshman. Yeah,
if we could get if I know it's not gonna happen, but everybody would love to see Rajon Rondo on the UK coaching staff. Every time he comes to a game, speculation kicks up, well, he's gonna be a coach, he's gonna be a coach. You'd have 2 great guards. You'd have, playoff Rondo. You'd have the 6th man of the year, and Mo Williams has got, I think, 1 or 2 NBA championships.
yeah. And all three of them have been all stars as well. So you're not
And
just hiring.
Rondo's got a championship. They all been NBA All-Stars, that's
You're
right.
not. Yeah, you're not talking about bringing
These
in
are
guys
elite guys.
they just played in the league. These are
Yeah.
elite guys. But here's the recruiting angle everybody in Kentucky is immediately noticing. You're not just hiring Jamal Crawford, the former player. You're potentially bringing in an NBA name, a major basketball personality who is not just a guy that everybody likes. And
Yeah, he's got a national presence.
guy has deep grassroots recruiting connections, and he has West Coast ties, something that Kentucky has struggled with over the years, and a direct connection to one of the country's most highly regarded young basketball families because they live in his house. And so I think that's something to take into consideration. Craig, if this actually happens, if Jamal Crawford comes to Kentucky, is he just filling a staff position, or could this end up becoming one of the biggest recruiting moves Kentucky makes all
I
offseason?
think a big recruit move because I would guess, I have no idea, but I would guess his TV money is more than what he would be paid as the head assistant coach at UK.
It would definitely be close. I mean, if nothing else. So I
Yeah,
mean,
but he wants to get in coaching. He's talked about it for years, And now that his son is following in his footsteps and being a really good player, you come to Kentucky, Duke, or Kansas if you want to, he would leave Kentucky and become a head coach, or he could be Kentucky's next head coach.
Oh,
He could be lining up because Pope's 50. You let him get 3 or 4 years experience in. Pope might say, I'm done with this. And so there's a lot of good future things by some of the moves that have been made in the last 3 weeks. And my personal one, I would love to see him get Rondo on the staff.
well, I will also say that, this has been a roller coaster in the off season. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this is one of the craziest
Yeah.
off seasons that you and I have definitely ever experienced. Even during the Billy Clyde days and things of that nature, this has been a wild time. And I know that NIL has changed things, and the NBA draft has changed things, and all of that matters. But this has been a wild year for Kentucky, not just living up to the expectations that they had, but now in the off season. But let's stay in that offseason discussion because uh, the biggest offseason question for Mark Pope's roster still doesn't have an answer. Is Malachi Moreno actually coming back? And the answer tonight is maybe more than people thought a week ago, but it's complicated. For a while, there was growing momentum suggesting Moreno could stay in the NBA draft process. He reportedly received encouraging feedback from teams and drew significant attention in workouts and combine activities. Some analysts even describe him as having a pretty strong chance to become a first round selection. But over the last several days, mock drafts have come out and started sending mixed signals. On one side, Yahoo's Kevin O'Connor recently projected Moreno in the first round at number 24 overall with the New York Knicks. On the other side, some of the larger mainstream boards on ESPN and otherwise still have him sitting outside those guaranteed first round spots and more like in the 43 to 44 area.
That's what I've seen.
And in fact, Yahoo just updated their projections last night, and they have him sitting at number 39, and that is the highest projection that there is. Yes, there's some guaranteed money in the second round, but it's not guaranteed in the sense
Well,
of the collective bargaining agreement that requires you to have that.
yeah, and he would probably spend time in the G League, which is just if you ever watched any G League games, it's just one-on-one for 5 guys against 5 guys, and whoever can score the most points. There's no defense. It's like an all-star game. There's no defense. Rarely does a G League player that plays and starts in G League makes it to the NBA. Reed Shepherd would be one that has gone down to the G League a couple of times, but when he went down, he scored 38 and 43 points. And then they brought him right back, and then he's become one of the 5 young guys on the Rockets that's basically untradeable.
Yeah.
So it's got its thing, but Moreno could get more money, like we said, every day, basically. Pope better back up the truck
Oh, whatever.
and offer the money to Moreno and to
Chilovich.
Momcilovic. There you go. To Momcilovic and get those 2 guys in. And then we're going to march forward. We'll quit it. We'll stop having all those naysayers. We'll stop saying, we'll stop hearing fire Coach Pope and all that stuff. And then with 2 NBA stars, all-stars on our team, that should help a ton with recruiting because they still want to get to the NBA. And if you've got 2 guards that were all-stars in the NBA, I mean, if I'm a guard, I'm coming to Kentucky versus I'm going to some school for an extra $500,000.
Yeah, CBS analysts Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish reportedly still believe Moreno is more likely than not to return to Lexington. Parrish reportedly put the probability of a return around 75%, and there are some reasons that make sense. First, Moreno already publicly indicated that if he withdraws from the draft process, Kentucky is where he's going to return. He's already signed his non-revenue share. That's already been done. Second, in the NIL era, the math has changed. A borderline first-round player doesn't necessarily have to jump immediately. Reports suggest Moreno already has a strong NIL situation in place and could potentially increase both his development and long-term value with another season under Mark Pope. Again, next year's draft landscape, this is third. Several analysts believe Moreno could benefit from returning and entering a potentially different draft environment. This is a very deep, very good draft this year. Yeah. Not that he wouldn't be a top 10 pick next year, but he would most assuredly be a top 10 pick.
Right. and he would get his money this year, but his NBA stock would go from middle second round to a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
And when you're talking top 10 pick, you're talking 10-digit money, 9-digit money. And just like, go back to Shepard, he's $10 million a year as a number 3 pick. If you're in the 7 to 10 million a year over a 4-year contract,
Yeah.
you're $28 million plus your commercials and other things and your shoes, contracts you sign. So I think, of course, I want him to come to Kentucky.
Sure.
But if I was an advisor of his, I would say, come back to Kentucky, put on 15 pounds of muscle, start every game, and keep doing like you're doing, and you'll be a top 10. No doubt he'd be a top 10 pick next year, maybe top 5.
Well, it gets down to that
You
question.
can't teach 7 feet.
Yeah, it gets down to the question of, can Malachi Moreno become a guaranteed first-round player right now? If the answer to that question is not a resounding yes, then as an advisor, even if this is a kid from Duke, and I don't like Duke, if that question comes up and the answer is not a resounding yes, you go back to school because you're going to make more. It used to be that if you were a second rounder, maybe even a late second rounder, and the decision was whether you were going to get drafted or whether you're going to come back to whatever school you came from, you'd go to the NBA because it was money. It was real money. There's real money.
Helping your family out money.
Yeah, there's helping your family out money in college now. You're talking $2, $3, $4 million at this point, and because of that, and because I don't think that answer is a guaranteed yes right now, I think Big Blue Nation is going to see Malachi Moreno. If I had to put, I say it's higher than 75%. In fact, he tweeted last night. One of those tweets that you sit there and question and wonder, what was that about?
What's every word and every syllable mean?
Yeah, and it was just 2 sets of eyeballs. Now that's interesting. It also came just moments after Jamal Crawford had reposted the thing about his son. So, maybe he knows something as well. Obviously, these guys talk. Everybody knows what's happening. Pope has been up in Chicago as well during this time. I think you'll see Malachi Moreno back. That thing I think we can put to rest in the next couple days. I think we'll hear that. When we do,
but it could go all the way to June 27 too.
Yeah, absolutely could. I don't think he will.
For him and Momcilovic, it could both go that far, but they could, if they come back to Kentucky, these big businesses that sign these players to these NIL deals, start signing them up now, encouraging guys to come back to Kentucky.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Momcilovic. Let's stay with Kentucky basketball and this big story, obviously, because there may be another very important development involving one of the biggest names still floating around college basketball world, and that is Milan Momcilovic. The latest chatter from Louisville Insider, now listen to me, this is from Louisville Insider Jody Demling, is that Louisville is not expecting to land Momcilovic, which is significant, and it's a significant shift because the Cardinals had repeatedly been mentioned in the last week among the
leading.
They
were a leading candidate, yeah.
In fact, if you had read Twitter X over the last week, it was just Cardinals fans dunking on UK fans that they were going to land this guy. It makes things, the reported group that was in the mix was obviously Kentucky and Louisville, St. John's, UCLA, Iowa State return was possible, but
Michigan a little bit.
But the money wasn't going to. A lot of people have spent a lot of their money, but for some unknown reason, Louisville has just a bottomless pit of money. It's like Scrooge McDuck's house has opened up or something, and they're just rolling in gold coins. But recent reporting suggests Louisville's position may be weakening considerably, which is interesting because this story that came out just 2 hours ago off MSN, off their site, following from Wildcat Blue Nation, is that he was predicted to come back to college, and it was either going to be Kentucky or Louisville.
Right.
Now, if Kentucky or Louisville are the top 2 choices, and Louisville's insider, Jody Demling, is saying he's not coming to the University of Louisville, back that truck up, Craig.
It's like a big blue.
Beep, beep,
It's Big Blue Christmas coming,
Get
and
that Brinks truck ready, Mark,
right,
and get that checkout because
and
write whatever it is that this kid wants.
and Momcilovic is projected more likely to come back to college
He's
than
below, he's below
than
Moreno.
Moreno.
Yeah,
You know, it's more of a chance of him. If we get one great, I mean, it's really great, excitingly
yeah,
great.
yeah,
If we get both, watch out, people.
yeah. Well, it's going to
And
be
watch
very.
all the people jump on the Big Blue
Oh yeah,
bandwagon again.
told you all a week ago to get back on the bandwagon because there may not be room when you want to get back on here, but
I will make
you're gonna.
room.
We will, but you'll see him jump. Goodness gracious.
But at least we'll stop seeing all the Big
Oh my
Blue
gosh, that's
whining.
the hate. According to Momcilovic himself, Kentucky's style of play has stood out to him as a potential fit. Reports indicate he likes the spacing and offensive concepts Mark Pope runs, even though Pope reportedly had not directly spoken with him at one stage of the process. Kentucky remained involved through representatives and continued communication. And here's where the NBA angle actually enters. Momcilovic's draft position appears to be one of the major reasons all of this remains fluid. Most projections continue placing him in high second round territory, not in guaranteed first round range. CBS Sports analyst Isaac Trotter recently projected that Momcilovic would ultimately withdraw from the draft process, though he did not make a school prediction. That creates a very similar conversation to the one that we just talked about with Malachi Moreno, because in today's world, the question is no longer, can I get drafted? The question has become, am I improving my long-term value by leaving now? If Momcilovic is sitting in the high second round range, there are real questions. Can another year raise him into first round territory? Can NIL rival or exceed immediate NBA money? Yes, at Kentucky, it absolutely
Right.
will. Can a season in Mark Pope's system increase his offensive profile? And from Kentucky's standpoint, this becomes fascinating. Imagine this scenario, Craig. Malachi Moreno returns. Milan Momcilovic withdraws and lands in Kentucky, and Jamal Crawford joins the staff in the next week. And
My good.
suddenly, this offseason conversation changes from Kentucky might be good to Kentucky might be one of the most dangerous teams in
Might
college.
win the championship, have a good shot at it, but, I mean, we would be so tall, but remember, the only school Momcilovic has mentioned is Kentucky. All the NBA and sports pundits have been saying Kentucky, Louisville, Kansas, Michigan, St. John's. He had never really mentioned a university, but in an interview last week, he said the word Kentucky. So hopefully that means that's at the top of his head, and he's ready to pull the trigger and come to Kentucky.
Yeah, and I will say that Rick Pitino is always out there. That scares you because Rick
Love
Pitino,
Rick Pitino.
yeah,
Yeah,
and you worry about Louisville, opening up Scrooge McDuck's, you know, uh, bank account and
yeah,
paying for this. And then you worry about guys like Calipari. You worry about a random school like Connecticut or Georgetown. These teams don't have the NIL money left. Not for a guy like
yeah,
not for a guy who is a darn near 50% 3-point shooter.
yeah.
Now,
We've got the Tyrann Stokes money that we were going to spend that $8
yeah,
million.
absolutely. And Kentucky offseason may not be slowing down anytime soon. Let's get into just real quick before we jump off here. Mark Pope and Kentucky are not done. Maybe not with this class, but also definitely not with the classes coming up. Let's start with a guy named Savo Drezic. You're gonna love trying to pronounce
Is
his
that the
name.
Russian guy?
Well, no, this kid is a Serbian, 6'4" Serbian guard who previously spent a season at Georgia before returning overseas and playing with Mega Superbet. I think we should start naming our NBA
Who?
teams. Mega Superbet. Uh,
Okay.
Kentucky was connected to him before, but now there appears to be actual movement again. According to Jacob Polacek at KSR, Drezic, I know I'm butchering that name, by the way, and you all can jump on me
Just say
later.
DP.
Yeah. Drezic himself confirmed, my agent is in contact with Kentucky. That's kind of big. It's
But
important because this isn't random message board smoke. This came directly from the player. So who is this guy? Look, when he was in the United States the first time and at Georgia, his numbers weren't eye-popping at all. 3 points a game, 1.1 rebounds, only played
neither were Anthony Davis's.
yeah. Yeah, 6.8 minutes per game, but then something changed after returning overseas and playing for Mega Superbet. His production exploded. He's averaging 15 and a half points a game, roughly 4 assists a game, and nearly 5 rebounds a game. And now here's why Kentucky would make sense. Mark Pope still appears to be looking for another ball handler. another shot creator and another experienced
Yeah.
piece in the backcourt. And Drezic checks a lot of those boxes. He also has SEC experience already, meaning he wouldn't be walking into a completely foreign environment, no pun intended. But my read tonight is Kentucky interest appears real. Whether Kentucky is leading is a different conversation entirely. Right now, this feels more like Kentucky is keeping a door open for another potential guard in the backcourt, and they're waiting kind of to see what happens with Moreno, Momcilovic, and remaining roster spots.
Well, and people wonder why UK and other schools are going for all these European players. You might not, you probably know this, but maybe many don't. The last 8 NBA MVPs are not born in the United States. Think about that. The best players in the league, the top 5 players in the league, are all foreigners.
Yeah.
So, I had a conversation with a guy at Da Vinci's Pizza the other day, and he said that AAU has ruined American-born players because it's so offense-driven. Thank you, Kyle.
This portion of
Because
the
it's
show is
so
brought to you by Da Vinci's Pizza.
because it's so offense-driven and not defense. And then the parents, you see all over YouTube, parents going crazy when a ref makes a call and they attack the ref in the field. Over in Europe, they teach their 7-footers to shoot 3-pointers.
Spread the floor.
Yeah, hitting a 10-footer is nothing.
Yeah.
And they work on their free throws, which is one of my most important things over in Europe. And I think SGA is probably shooting at a 95% clip in the playoffs right now.
Well, it helps when you shoot 35 of them a game too.
Well, yeah, I actually checked that because I thought he averages 9 free throws a game. But still,
Yeah, still.
Kobe Bryant, for the older folks, Kobe Bryant probably made an extra 10 or 15 million a year because he was such a good free throw shooter.
Absolutely.
He could draw fouls like SGA, except when Kobe played, they were real fouls. Now, if you breathe on these NBA players, they call a foul.
Now go back and do Jordan. If you really
Oh,
want to
yeah. Well, all the NBA greats, says Michael Jordan, in this era would average 60 points a game, average.
Yeah.
And
he'd shoot 30 free throws.
Yeah, he would shoot 20 or 30 free throws a game.
Yeah.
You remember Bill Laimbeer and those guys and Kareem, they destroyed you.
Kurt Rambis.
Yeah, they destroyed you. They were there to destroy. You didn't drive down the lane like you do today in the NBA.
Robert Parrish and those guys. I mean, even your guards, you had guys running off the bench, the guard.
They said Barkley, Barkley's 6'4", but he played like he was 6'8".
Yeah.
He said Barkley averaged 40 or 45 points a game. Karl Malone had averaged 40 or 45 points a game.
Because they could also shoot free throws. And if you fouled them in this era and they shot 15 free throws a game, you're only talking about having to make 6 or 7.
And Shaq would probably average 50 or 60 a game.
Goals. Yeah. Well, I don't know. He couldn't.
No, he would just have to stand underneath because they don't call 3 seconds no more.
Yeah.
And they don't play defense underneath. And if you get near a big guy, the whistle's blown whether they touch him or not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The James Harden era has ruined the NBA. All the flopping, and then of course LeBron James is a king flopper. It's hurt it a lot, but it's not as fun to watch as it used to be.
But the teams that are playing right now, the New York Knicks, the Oklahoma City, regardless of whether you don't like the founding
5 or 6, 7 years, there's your champions.
These are
Houston.
These are finesse teams, that are really good athletes, and so that you look at Jokic and Denver. This is a point forward that can point center who can pass all.
He averaged another triple double.
Yeah,
and he's going to end up in the Lakerland. He's going to end up in Los Angeles.
Boy, that'd be fun. I'll tell you that much.
He's going to be there, and then San Antonio with Wemby and OKC.
That's a freak. That guy's a
you're going to have the NBA world is going to be Houston, San Antonio, and Oklahoma City. All you could drop a towel on them, and that's for the next 5 to 7, 8 years. That's where all the NBA winners are going to be, right out of that little circle.
I'll challenge you and say the Lakers will be decent. They have Laker money. They can throw money at guys.
Can't
And
get nobody to play there because of their tax situation.
well, that's true. We can talk.
50% of your contract
Yeah, we could talk
goes
about
to
that too.
taxes.
Well, same with New York. I mean, why would you play in New York when you can
Hey,
play in
and
Miami?
that's what players are saying.
You're starting to figure it out. I'll play in Orlando, and and not have any taxes.
Remember we talked about Wan'Dale Robinson. He got an 11% raise
Yeah.
just by leaving before his contract.
$9 million that he won't pay in taxes.
That he won't have to pay New York state taxes.
Just because
that's gotta be in these guys' minds.
Well, of course, and some of these guys are like, "Yeah, I wanna chase a ring, I wanna do those things." There are other players who are like, "I wanna be good, but I don't wanna give all my money away either."
Right. I
How
mean,
are the Giants
LeBron
ever gonna
loses
get good?
Yeah, LeBron loses out of that 50,000,000 or probably 65,000,000 a year contract. 60% of that money is gone for every game that he plays in California.
Yeah.
And it's Golden State and, the Clippers and the Lakers. So that's a lot of games, probably
Yeah.
a third of the season that they play that he loses 60% of his money.
Well, he plays half the games in
In Los
LA,
Angeles.
in Los Angeles, and
And
then
then he goes to the Knicks.
Yeah.
They play them once a year. There's another big chunk of money out. So the money is coming into play, and that's why I think these better players are either holding out, and you won't see the San Antonio players leave.
No.
Because even though they might get an extra 10,000,000, hell, they'll end up paying in taxes over the life of the contract.
You're gonna end up and this is the craziest thing, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now. The Dodgers are great because they're essentially there is no salary cap in baseball, right?
Yeah, they bought a winning team.
They overpay players, and they essentially say, "You're not gonna make that money anywhere else. We'll pay
They
you
got $1,000,000,000 in 3 players.
Yeah, and then you turn around, but in other areas, Florida teams, your Texas teams, your Tennessee teams are all going to start being very good and very competitive because your smart athletes and your good athletes are going to realize I can make significantly more money by just having a reasonable contract because I'm not paying at all.
And is Nashville, are they rumored to get the next NBA team?
They were in the mix.
I mean, just recently.
No, I think Seattle and Las Vegas are gonna end up with those 2.
Okay, let's go.